Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. This podcast features powerful hypnosis, so do not listen while driving or operating machinery. This recording is not suitable for those with epilepsy or severe mental health issues. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and in this episode of The Hypnotist, I'm going to be doing a random hypnosis session based on destination, emotions and nouns, plus the Mike Mandel language pattern cards, just to infuse another variable in there as well. So yeah, you've already heard the premise by now, so I'm going to go straight into it. And for those on YouTube, share my screen. Which for some, there we go. I wasn't working there for a second. Right, so the random destination is going to be a place called Frederick in the United States. I know very little about Frederick. Is the county seat, largest city, and commercial and geographic center of Frederick County in Maryland. Let's have a look here. All right, so there is a few different kind of manors, quite cute looking buildings, quite religious. It looks like quite a few different churches and things like that. Yeah, there's a very old church there called the All Saints Episcopal Church, and there's a stadium there as well. So there's a few different things going on in Frederick, so we could use those in the session. Right, the random emotions. We've got passion and sadness. Passion, I think, is one of my favorite resourceful states, just because it generates so much energy and enthusiasm. Sadness has its place as well, but only if people take the moment of sadness to kind of effectively reflect or kind of move on from that moment. It's a good emotion to deal with certain life events like loss and things like that, but it's not a good place to stay there. So we can use sadness in this one, and then we're going to generate three random words. We've got lazy, content, and contribution. So lazy, obviously the opposite of hardworking. Content, we've got two different meanings to depending on how you say it, really. Content as in satisfied, but also content in terms of like what I'm doing now, creating content. And then you've got contribution, which effectively is to give to others. So we've got some interesting nouns, emotions, and words there for the destination of Frederick. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for YouTube. And now we've got the Mike Mandel language card again. I've gone through about 6 or 7 of these cards already, so they're going to get fewer and fewer, but it does ensure that by the end of the deck, we've covered every language pattern in the pack. So I've just cut the cards there. You can see that if you're watching on screen. And this is the 4 of clubs. And it's the phrase, there's no need to. I'm going to read out what it says on the card. If you want a copy of these cards, by the way, if you go to MikeMandelHypnosis.com, you'll be able to, I'm sure, find out about these cards. Certainly when I got them, I just paid for postage. So very good resource if you're a hypnotherapist or you're just interested in hypnosis. So 4 of clubs, there's no need to. There may not be a need, but chances are you're going to do it anyway. So there is an example here. There's no need to get really good at hypnosis. There's no need to solve all sorts of things while you sleep. And there's no need to keep thinking about this. Tip, you can insert any embedded command after saying there's no need to. So in many ways, this is a little bit like reverse psychology, which I think a principle many people would be familiar with. And if you think about it in your own life, if someone says, oh, no, you don't have to do that, you don't need to do that, for a lot of people, there is this almost instant reaction saying, no, it's okay, I'm happy to. It's the opposite of expectation, and it's the opposite of entitlement. When someone says, do that for me, for most people, the reaction is, why should I? I don't want to. But if it's the reverse of that and say, well, there's no need to do that, well, then that polarity response in a lot of people is also there. And they say, well, why not? I could do this. I'm happy to do that. So a very good language pattern to use as a hypnotherapist. There is a myth that the mind can't think in negative. So if you say, it's not necessary to, or there's no need to, and then you have, let's say, a negative thing, it still gets them thinking about the thing. I don't buy into that belief, because even children understand negatives, so the unconscious mind definitely can understand negatives. But this phrase here, there's no need to, I think is a very powerful statement. So we've got all of our ingredients for the random hypnosis session, and I've got my 15-minute hourglass here. So let's start the hypnosis. Take a deep breath in, and as you breathe in, imagine breathing in a feeling of calm and relaxation. And as you exhale, if it's safe to do so, allow your eyelids to close, and in doing that, notice that you go deeper and deeper into a feeling of tranquility and relaxation. Each and every breath, notice that you breathe out slightly more than you did before. And in doing so, you activate your diaphragm to increase the oxygen levels and decrease feelings of tension and stress in your body. As you continue to breathe in and breathe out, breath by breath, you're going deeper and deeper, relaxed. Your imagination is a powerful machine, able to entertain different ideas, concepts, things that are real, things that couldn't be real. And I want you to imagine that you are in a city in the United States, but not a huge city, not New York, Chicago, Los Angeles. I want you to imagine you are in a smaller city, the county of Maryland, a city called Frederick. And I want you to get a sense that this is quite a quaint city. As you look around, you can see some old colonial buildings. You get a sense that perhaps this is one of the earliest places where perhaps many generations ago they settled here. I want you to get a sense that there's the ability to imagine perhaps a previous life here. And I want you to entertain the idea, not that you're visiting a past life, but simply accept that past lives lived here. They had to. This city is hundreds of years old, and therefore many generations have lived here before. But I want you to go back to when they just built a famous church in this building, a church they call All Saints. And there it is. Imagine that it's the year 1742. Things were different then. And I want you to imagine it's the opening of this church there in Frederick. And imagine that you're seeing all the different churchgoers go into this church. Notice the expression on many of passion, the enthusiasm they have to visit this brand new church. And I want you to imagine that you can see all these churchgoers from above. And in doing so, I want you to notice there is one particular member of the congregation that seems to capture your attention. And I want you to imagine what it would be like to see the world through their eyes just for a brief period of time. And I want you to do that now. See them, and then imagine that rather than seeing them, you're now inside their body. And there's no need to feel like you're actually them. And there's no need to get all of the details exactly right. Simply imagine that you're trying on this person for size like you would try on clothes in a changing room in a shop. And I want you to scan their mind for any feelings of sadness. And I wonder if this sadness isn't something that has happened a long time ago. Maybe the sadness of losing someone or something, the sadness of evaluating missed opportunities, or some kind of previous moment of trauma or pain. And I want you to entertain the idea that it's possible to experience sadness even if there is no reason to feel sad in the moment. You're not in your body, you're just in the body of a long gone member of a church congregation many hundreds of years ago. But you can accept that people can feel sad for things that have happened in their past. And some people wear that sadness as a badge. Some people link it to their identity. Some people are content with their sadness. But I want you to perceive that holding on to sadness that you don't need anymore is lazy. It's lazy because no work is required in order to stay whatever emotion you feel in a moment. And we're not talking about hard physical work that changes that. I want you to imagine that there is just thoughts that could be connected to a previous time that enable you to convert that sadness into something else. As you're in that body, remembering that moment that perhaps caused the original sadness, I want you to get a sense that even if the original sadness was real, everything since then is linked to the idea, the memory of that moment. And isn't it interesting that if you change the memory, or not even the actual memory, but how you think about that memory, then the emotion can change. I wonder what it would be like if you thought about that moment of sadness and perhaps noticed that the memory is a particular way. Maybe it's dark. Maybe you feel like you're in your own body at the point where you're experiencing that sadness. And I wonder what would happen if we change that content. If we make it brighter. If we change the content so the perspective is different, you're seeing yourself as if you're someone else, perhaps a stranger witnessing that sad moment. I wonder what would happen if it was shrunk down all the way to the size of a tiny coin. And then imagine what can happen when sadness is given a meaning. And there's no need to think of times when you've seen perhaps people that have lost someone close to them, maybe in an accident or an overdose or something painful. In many cases, particularly the parent of a child that's lost someone, seeks to give a positive meaning to that moment. And in many cases, they start to campaign, they start to make huge efforts to reduce the likelihood of their pain, their sadness being experienced by someone else. And at some level, isn't it possible that sadness fuels passion? You could argue that passion is just an intense emotional desire. But isn't it possible to be more passionate when you feel like you're contributing to other people? And as you think about this person from hundreds of years ago, what their sadness was, I want you to accept that the lazy thing to do is just to wear that sadness like a blanket, to revisit it. Some people even get comfortable with their sadness. Or it could be used to create some kind of goal or intention to do something that reduces the likelihood of sadness for other people. And when you approach things from the perspective of contribution, of giving back, of having some kind of impact on society or the world, you could make a sad moment and make it positive. You could turn that sadness into passion. And with that passion could mean that as you notice the impact of your contribution on others, isn't it possible that what started off as sadness then becomes a feeling of deep pride or satisfaction or gratitude? And you realize that this is just someone else's sadness, not your sadness. But I want you to think of sadness that you've experienced in your life. As you separate yourself from that person in the church, still find yourself in that old church, but notice all the people are gone. It's now the present day. And you're in that church, in your own body, in exactly the same location. And there's no need to try and think. But you won't help but notice that there is a particular thought or memory that causes you sadness. I want you to imagine that that sad memory moment comes to mind. And you activate that industrious, creative part that starts changing the content, changing the brightness, changing the size, changing the perspective. But more importantly, changing the meaning. That's the most powerful content that you can change. And when you decide that there is a way of changing the meaning of that moment to enable you to help either yourself, the people around you, or even the wider society, you won't help to notice a glimmer of passion connected to an idea of making a difference in other people's life. The most passionate people are quite often those people that put the thoughts, the emotions, the lives of other people before their own. And I wonder what would happen if you can take that sad moment in your life and create an intention to contribute to other people in a positive way. And then entertain the idea of what that would be like. There in this church in Frederick in Maryland, what would it be like if it happens the way you want it to happen? If you unlock that passion and contribute in the way that you want to contribute, what's the possible ripple effect, the impact of that on other people's lives? Maybe there's a few people that would have been sad that are no longer sad. Maybe it inspires other people. I want you to get a sense that there's so much possibility linked to your ability to tap into your passion. And there's no need to draw big, complicated plans. There's no need to put yourself under any pressure, because the moment that you link your ability to make a contribution to other people to the feeling of passion, then the seed is already planted. You'll find it very difficult to be lazy when you've got an idea that can help other people, and it's an idea that you feel passionate about. How can you be content with life without that contribution if you know there's the possibility of you making that contribution? And when you think back to that church with perhaps hundreds of people there, all those people are long since gone. But what may still exist is the ripples, the echoes of the contribution they made in their life. Life is finite, but the contribution that you make could echo for eternity. And there's no need to worry about whether or not this contribution will happen in the way that you want. Just entertain the idea that if you don't attempt, nothing will happen. And if you explore options, something could happen. But the more that things happen for you, the more passion is unlocked. And the more passion is unlocked, the more difficult it is to be lazy or content. Until it reaches a point where maybe, just maybe, there is a mission, a purpose, a fire that once it's lit can never be extinguished. And know that there are many ways that you can contribute. You don't have to create a big charity or a big mission. Sometimes contribution is affecting just one life in a way that profoundly changes the trajectory of that life. And then you realize all of this, the church, that past life, are all just thoughts in your head, your imagination taking you on a journey, and that actually you're listening to my voice right now in your own body. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Wiggle the fingers, wiggle the toes. Get a sense that you're in your own physical body right now. And in doing so, very soon I will count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. You will awaken feeling motivated, passionate, feeling that any sadness are actually opportunities to create new meanings and new goals in your life. And there's no need to try too hard. Once your unconscious has unlocked these resources, you'll find that that passion takes you on the journey all by itself. Starting to count to awaken you. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.
Thank you for listening to The Hypnotist with Adam Cox, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review.
Thank you so much for watching that. I hope you found it useful. What was coming to my mind while I was doing that is that this idea of turning sadness into a passion or a form of contribution is kind of what I'm doing right now. Because when I was a late teenager, I had such severe anxiety, depression. I was a recluse for almost a year. And at that time, I was deeply sad to the point of suicide. Suicidal thoughts, at least. And now when I think back, I think there was a lot of value I got from those moments. But one of the key values is this idea that if I was able to kind of change my own thinking and get myself out of that, kind of psychological trap that I was in, then it might be possible that I can help other people. And certainly I would say hypnosis for me is a passion. And I do feel like things like the podcast and YouTube is a form of contribution. So in many ways, this idea of turning sadness into contribution isn't just a suggestion. I kind of feel like at some level I'm living that. So hopefully you got some value out of this. If you could like and subscribe, that would be useful. I'm getting a bit of a cough here, but most of all, just thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon for more.